It all began in 2008 when two businessmen named Travis Kalanick and Garrett Camp experienced a eureka moment. They were frustrated by how difficult it was to hail a cab in San Francisco and wondered, what would happen if you simply just tapped your phone to obtain a ride? Uber, an app that would enable users to easily request rides using a smartphone app, matching passengers with drivers who are nearby via GPS. But it wasn't that easy. The idea was relatively easy, but effective. A ride-sharing service that provided ease, transparency, and a fresh perspective on urban transportation. It was based on a very genuine need at the time, when two friends and successful entrepreneurs needed a ride home on a snowy night in Paris after attending an annual tech conference LeWeb. The entrepreneurs parted ways following the conference, but Camp carried his obsession with the concept with him and purchased the domain name ubercab.com upon his return to San Francisco. While still serving as StumbleUpon CEO in 2009, Camp started a side effort to develop an UberCab prototype. UberCab was still only an app-ordered shared luxury taxi service concept at the time. A new era began in 2010 with the advent of Uber. There was going to be serious competition for traditional taxi services. Riders experienced a new degree of ease, as it could now be anyone with a car and a smartphone. But not everyone, though, was overjoyed. Regulators and taxi businesses protested, saying Uber was operating illegally and unfairly competing with other businesses. After Camp was able to convince Kalanick to become an advisor for UberCab, the first Uber rider ever requested a trip across San Francisco on July 5, 2010. In December 2010, Ryan Graves, the company's first CEO, took on the roles of COO and board member, while Kalanick took over as CEO. Through the Uber app, consumers could request a trip by simply tapping a button. The rider's location was determined by a GPS, and the expense was immediately charged to the card associated with the user account. Uber's early success among users and investors was powered by its simplicity, and the startup soon rose to the top of San Francisco's business scene. The business got its first significant capital of $1,025 million by October 2010, and in 2011, it experienced exponential growth. After raising $11 million at the beginning of the year, the business expanded to Washington, D.C., New York, Seattle, Boston, Chicago, and Paris overseas. The concept for Uber originated in Paris, and within a year after the first trip request was made, the company had gone global. At the very conference that was responsible for Uber's inception, the 2011 LeWeb conference in December, Kalanick said that Goldman Sachs and Jeff Bezos had joined Uber's Series B funding round, raising a total of $32 million. Uber introduced UberX, possibly its most well-known service, in 2012. UberX offered a less expensive car ordering option in addition to its basic black car service. At that point, Uber started to appeal to a wider audience. But before we jump into Uber's international expansion, we must examine the creative business model along with the expansion strategy that underpin the company's exponential growth. Uber has grown and diversified its services since its founding, which is important to note when discussing Uber's business strategy. Uber is now more than simply a ride-hailing service. It also provides freight, Uber Freight, and food delivery, Uber Eats. For the purpose of simplicity, though, it mostly concentrates on ride-sharing, which is Uber's primary business, and the business strategy that surrounds it. Uber's primary concept is to match drivers who are prepared to transport passengers who need to go somewhere with riders. Uber serves as the marketplace where drivers and riders may easily connect. Riders generate the demand, and drivers give the supply. Uber has two main users, drivers and the passengers. To maintain the platform's intended functionality, Uber needs to draw in enough customers by offering compelling value propositions for both drivers and passengers. Even though Uber's appeal is clear, who is their specific target market? Uber's value propositions make clear that the company's primary target markets are drivers seeking flexibility and supplemental income, typically on the side, and passengers seeking a hassle-free ride. Uber's website headline about passengers was "Everyone's private driver for a while." That indicates how broad Uber's target market is, as it's everyone who needs a ride. Well, San Francisco was not the only location for Uber. They had a worldwide vision from the beginning. Uber quickly began to focus on capturing additional cities, as well as continents. Uber expanded to New York City in 2011 and then made the transatlantic trip to Paris the following year. The organization saw nothing less than remarkable growth. But as we grew, we faced additional difficulties. Local competitors frequently emerged to challenge Uber's hegemony, and different markets had varied regulations. Despite strong criticism in many areas, Uber innovated and adjusted to meet local demands. Uber expanded its offers beyond its primary ride-hailing service. From food delivery services like Uber Eats to trucking logistics services like Uber Freight, the firm aimed to establish itself as the leading platform for all things transportation-related. Uber's introduction into emerging markets was one of the major turning points. Uber was a lifesaver in places where traditional cabs were hard to come by, revolutionizing urban transportation in places like Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America. As Uber grew, leaving its stamp on the world stage was just as important as growth figures. Uber encountered new chances and challenges in every new nation it entered, making its journey an inspiring tale of aspiration, flexibility, and unwavering determination. Uber's expansion strategies. Disregard legal action threats. Present the argument that users want Uber to be present. Don't pay attention to government stings. Reassure drivers that Uber will use the enormous sums of money invested in the firm to pay any fines, legal fees, or other consequences when the government confronts them with fines. Begin influencing the state legislature. Begin advocating for laws that would permit it to operate. Establish a favorable public image and win the backing of significant neighborhood charities and other important community players. Engage clients in online petitions. Monopolize the market. Invest more in advertising, hire additional drivers, and create public relations gimmicks like ice cream or puppy deliveries. The company faced several challenges as it reached new heights, which put its adaptability and tenacity to the test. Among the earliest and most difficult problems were the regulatory battles. Uber was seen by local authorities and traditional taxi firms as a challenge to their established practices. To stop Uber from growing, some communities passed new legislation, implemented restrictions, or filed lawsuits. Interactions between the rider and passenger. Worker and driver relations posed another significant challenge. Driver. Salary and job security have become topics of discussion due to the gig economy model. While many drivers relish the freedom, others found it difficult to make ends meet and to receive benefits. Security fears. Security fears were yet another important factor. It was critical to guarantee passenger and driver safety on a platform that brings strangers together. Uber came under fire for its handling of misbehavior episodes, insurance coverage, and background checks. Competitive market. Uber was also put to the test by market saturation and competition. Local rivals arose as it expanded internationally, perhaps supported by regional titans. Uber was forced to change its approach or possibly pull out of some markets. Public relations crises. Crises in public relations also didn't help. Uber's company culture, which included problems with executive misconduct and harassment, drew condemnation. A number of high-profile scandals brought the corporation unwanted attention. Technical threats. Operational and technological obstacles were a never-ending problem. Uber faced challenges with integration, high costs of innovation, and technology failures while introducing new services like food delivery and self-driving cars. Uber is seen as the primary disruptor in the transportation sector, but in reality, the business is a latecomer to the ride-sharing game. Uber's rival Lyft and its erstwhile rival Sidecar, which shut down in 2015, are credited with establishing ride-sharing as it exists now, which involves the use of unlicensed, non-commercial drivers and cars. Before adopting the current ride-sharing approach, Uber first solely collaborated with businesses that were commercially licensed, insured, and regulated, known as black cars in many places. Uber was a quick follower, but it grew more quickly and aggressively and provided a better user experience, which helped it dominate the industry in many areas. Uber's expansion not only altered the travel habits, but also gave rise to a brand new freelance economy. Numerous drivers discovered fresh prospects, relishing the liberty of adjustable work schedules and additional revenue. The inception of Uber in 2009 was yet another noteworthy achievement. It presented a brand new business strategy that was fully dependent on gig labor, paving the way for the emergence of comparable platforms across a wide range of sectors. The gig economy matured in the 2010s as more individuals began to accept flexible work schedules. It wasn't all plain sailing either. The gig economy also presented difficulties, such as discussions about equitable pay and job security. Some were up for employment, and the conversation about workers' rights heated up. Uber's post-pandemic plans are still in the works, but Khosrow Shahi suggests that users consider the company more as a transportation platform than a service. Think of it as the Amazon of transportation. According to him, customers will be able to use Uber to hail a cab, drive, take a bus, or ride a train. It would be advantageous for the customer because better products come with more options and higher prices. Uber wants to change its approach to make it more inclusive. It's unclear how they want to accomplish that, but we can be sure they'll strive to expand their product line and provide additional services because that may be their only chance to turn a profit. Uber is an intriguing business with an intriguing backstory. Although its technology is not particularly disruptive, it is one of the most well-known disruptors of the past 10 years. However, the way it applies it and integrates it with its business plan Most definitely is. Uber is best described by its unwavering determination. Uber's narrative goes beyond simple technological disruption. It is a tale of foresight, tenacity, and the unwavering quest to improve urban transit for all. Furthermore, who can predict what lies ahead as we gaze toward the future?